Hey everyone. This video is about connecting Tabular to Snowflake, setting up a read only integration. So let's get started. So first, logging in Tabular, I have really from the data section, I have a number of warehouses that I might want to connect to Snowflake. Important to know right now, Snowflake, their external Iceberg integration is going to require you to be in the same region. So your S3 bucket should be in the same region as your Snowflake, cloud provider and region. Not sure if that'll stay that way forever, but for now, that's a requirement. So for me, I'm going to hit up our enterprise data warehouse. And once you click into the warehouse, you can go to settings, and we have this mirroring option for Snowflake. So from scratch, let's set this up. First, I need to get my Snowflake account URL. Specifically, this needs to be the snowflakecomputing.com version of that. If you're not sure how to get that, there's actually a pretty handy SQL based on your current region that you can use to get this that I should have handy. If not, we'll post it in the description of the video. So I'll come over here, and in my current account, you'll see I'm in app.snowflake.com. This is not the URL that we need. So what I'll do to get the correct URL, I'll go back, and many of you these days are using the newer UI, so no problem. And I want to get this version. Now, the classic console, when I click this, I'm going to skip that. That will give me the proper up here URL. If you're on Azure or GCP, you'll see something like that in here. If you're in a region outside of the US West 2 on AWS, you should see your region up here as well. Okay, kind of boring. Let me just copy that, go back here, and I'll give it the account URL. Perfect. Okay, so this is set up. The username and the role name, you can absolutely edit these if you have like a specific role in mind that you'd want to use. But I personally really like having this because I may connect multiple warehouses to Snowflake, and this ID right here is a tabular unique warehouse ID for this specific warehouse. It means I won't have collisions of trying to create something that already exists. And because it's kind of a read-only replica pushing out, there shouldn't be the need to allow other roles to write to it. In fact, don't do that, please. But having a read role would be smart, and we'll leave that to you as well to set up. I'll show you how to do that in this tutorial video. Okay, so next we're going to hit apply changes. And what I would expect is to then have this say the settings have been updated. Now, you're not done. You haven't actually mirrored anything. This is just told Tabular to create the necessary names, objects, and specifically the public key to be able to authenticate with Snowflake. So next we need to tell Snowflake about these objects, because Snowflake didn't just magically create them. We have to create them. So I'll go, I don't know why my face is over. I'll move it here. Snowflake connection created, and here are the details, though none of this really needs to be directly copied. It's here if you need it, even in the future. I want to set up Snowflake next. So I'll hit set up Snowflake, and this generates the SQL. All this is going to do is create the basic SQL to create these objects. And important to note, the warehouse that you want Tabular to use, because it will have to use a warehouse, unfortunately, you should go ahead and just put that in here. The reason we don't just create one for you is because you may already have a warehouse that's running that you use for maintenance tasks. And while this integration is not going to do anything data intensive at all, Snowflake does for these create commands. For some of these, require a warehouse. Or sorry, not the create commands. The ongoing integration to update the mirror. So when we have a new column added or a new table added or any sort of changes on your Tabular warehouse, that needs to get mirrored relatively real time to Snowflake so it knows about it. And those operations to alter the tables and alter the metadata, those unfortunately do consume warehouse credits. So do yourself a favor and use a warehouse that's already on. The load shouldn't really impact it versus other workloads. Otherwise, you can, of course, always create your own warehouse. Extra small, probably instant turn off, that kind of stuff. All right, so let's copy this. I'm going to jump over into my worksheet. I created an empty worksheet for this, just a SQL space. Well, it was empty. These are the delete commands that I used earlier to clean it up. I already had this set up. So let's set it up. So right now, there's nothing in here. I'll paste it in. we already have the proper roles being used for these different objects, and we grant usage to the appropriate like sysadmin roles as needed. So good. So all I need to do is put the warehouse here. I do have a warehouse that I'd want to use for this, which is my Randy Pitcher workspace warehouse. So I'll go ahead and add that one here. Importantly, because this is using a variable, make sure it's case sensitive. So Randy Pitcher workspace warehouse. Perfect. And here, this is obviously a secret. Don't share this with folks. But I'll by the time I post this video, I'll change this. And then here's where we're referencing that warehouse. And down here, importantly, we're creating an external volume. Now, a thing I probably should have called out earlier. This is currently behind a private preview in Snowflake. You'll need to enable the Iceberg private preview support in Snowflake, or your Snowflake account won't have any clue what this volume is. Or this catalog integrated. It won't know anything about that. Though soon it'll be a public preview, and we can all just stop worrying about asking our Snowflake reps to turn it on. Then we have some usage stuff that we need to grant so that the role that we create and the user we create will actually have permissions to do the maintenance. And at the bottom, this is going to be a value that you might actually want to extract. So this will be your AWS IAM user ARN and external ID. We'll need that for the next steps to finish the integration. And lastly, this is the SQL I mentioned earlier. It doesn't really do you a lot of good here, but I'll copy paste this. So if you run this anywhere, even in this URL format, it'll spit out the proper URL that you need. So we should probably put that somewhere. It's in our docs if you need it. Okay, let's run this. So I'm gonna just select everything and run it because I'm extremely confident that it's gonna work on this recorded video. Isn't it funny that it never really does seem to work when you're recording? Beautiful. Okay, so this ran. Everything is set up. We have not created the warehouse, the database in Snowflake that will exist. That's created by the service account. So important note, you'll want to make sure that the namespace is free for this enterprise data warehouse. Right now, there's no way to customize that. We have it on our roadmap because often you might want to replicate to Tabular enterprise data warehouse or something like that. You know, this is a pretty generic name. Okay, let me close this. Cool, so this is ran. I got the two values that I'm going to need. So that's going to be the storage IAM user and the external ID. These are both values that Snowflake creates. These are basically, this is the principle Snowflake will use when trying to access the S3 location where your Iceberg data lives. So we need to go into AWS and let AWS on our side be configured to allow read access to our Iceberg table, to that specific warehouse location, to this entity. And then that way, when we're in Snowflake, we do select star from customers table. Snowflake is actually not going to use the REST catalog. It doesn't support reading from our REST catalog. It's going to go straight to the volume and use its inbuilt permissions to read only against that in S3. Hopefully this didn't sound super complex. We look forward to a day when, and Snowflake's announced that they're going to build this kind of stuff, where they support direct REST integration, REST catalog integration, and then your tabular permissions will be in effect also for Snowflake, and you don't have to worry about duplicate permissions. But for now, this is kind of the state of the art. So I'm going to copy this value, which I can do over here, and that's the user ARN. And let's go to the next step. So we did the first couple. We generated the SQL. Let's set up AWS. Storage, that user ARN is here, and then the next one is the external ID. We'll want to grab that. Great. And before I click Launch AWS Cloud Formation, I'm actually going to just log in to AWS. Because otherwise it'll say you're not logged in. Great. Okay. I'm logged in. I'll go to our sandbox. That's where I put everything because I don't trust myself in those other environments. Management console, that's fine. Okay, so now I'm logged in. I'll close this out. Go back here and, back to Tabular. We're going to click launch AWS CloudFormation. Now, you are absolutely fine to implement this yourself. Like if you don't want to use our CloudFormation, you want to do it manually for some reason, or if you use Terraform or just whatever, you're going to need to provide certain permissions. And largely it's going to be list and read on S3 objects within the S3 bucket and whatever prefix that you're trying to grant access to that entity. And so we have that here. The bucket name is already passed in for you. This is the prefix for that specific warehouse. The external ID and the principal ARN. These are the things from Snowflake. And then the warehouse name that is related to this tabular entity. I don't need to run this, but if you want to, you can run it as a specific subset role. I'll just use my direct admin access, and I'm going to create stack. Now, this may... I don't think this is going to fail. I already have these objects set up. That's why I'm wondering if it's going to fail or not. Okay, and they're failing largely. I'm going to go ahead and guess because they already exist. So for you, these should work. I didn't go in here and roll back to the last time I had this. Hopefully this doesn't make the video useless, but go ahead and roll these out. These should work for you if they're failing. Detect root cause. Oh, it already exists. Yeah, okay, perfect. That was useful to help me just read. It already exists, so I'm fine, good to go. But for you, these entities would not exist. You can create them. If they already exist, you're probably good to go. Beautiful. All right, so let me jump back here, and now we're ready for the final step, which is really just flipping the switch. And this is where you find out if it worked or not. So I'm going to hit enabled and apply. Ideally, okay, this says it worked. If you're getting an error, which can happen, this can be a little finicky depending on your Snowflake configs, your AWS configs, your Tabular configs. The error may or may not tell you what's going on. We're always trying to improve those. But the first place I would look is Snowflake, because the immediate steps of what's going to happen here is Tabular is going to try to connect to this URL, and this is a very common place that people get stuck, is that they pass this URL in wrong. Now, of course, you can always hit our little support chat up here, contact us. We're happy to get you helped out. Someone like me will jump on a call with you if you need it. But check this and make sure it's that format we talked about. Check the URL. Next, you want to make sure all your objects actually created in here, that you didn't have any sort of odd errors. The next place to look that I think is really overlooked is go to activity and query history. Make sure you're in a role that can see pretty broad query history, and go look for that tabular user that you created. So I have quite a few, but I just happen to know CBB is the one for this account. I work with it pretty regularly. I'll click that, and you can see what's happening. So we are going to create tables. We're creating the database that existed here. These failed. And so if there's any sort of failure or oddity, first check if there's logs in here. If there's no logs in here, that means that there's some error stopping Tabular from connecting here. For a lot of enterprise accounts, that's often your security. Is this where they put it now? Yeah, network policies. If you have a network policy, like to an internal VPN, you need to update that to allow Tabular traffic to come in. Because otherwise, Tabular will have all the configs set. You'll have set up all the configs in Snowflake right. And then when Tabular service connects to Mirror, it'll get blocked. It won't be able to get in. So that's another place where people often get stuck. You can confirm whether that's happening or not by whether or not you have activity. If you have activity in the SQL, then that's not happening. You're good to go. And then within here, we can debug the errors. So I think it masks some of the SQL that's run. Error assuming the AWS role. Please verify the role and external ID. So this tells me exactly what's going on. My AWS role is configured incorrectly. It's not able to assign it. I bet you, when I recreated these objects, Snowflake is dynamically provisioning new objects, right? So new entities. So when it tries to use the stuff I had that already existed, it's not flying. So let me go ahead and roll those back. So I'll show you how to debug this a little bit. If you're not interested at this point, everything should be good. You can just query your data, but these things do tend to have a little bit of debug requirement. So let's do that together. So enterprise data warehouse, I know that the last time I ran this, it would have used this kind of name. So I'm going to paste that up here, and I'm going to hit enter. Here's the last time I ran it. That would be in October. And I believe I can very, very quickly just, would I delete? Let's see. Okay, update, delete. Delete the stack. This action can be done. And it will delete all the resources. That's what I want. So let's go ahead and delete these resources. I find that when you get errors like this, it's best to breathe and stay calm, even when you're on a recorded video. All right, so this is initiated. I can refresh and see what it's doing. It'll take a second. Hopefully this is faster. Delete complete. There we go. All complete. Good to go. Now, you could go back at any time because Tabular always exposes this to you. And I could, if I turn it off, apply changes, then I get my menu back, right? So I don't have to start from scratch and do all this again. I can just go straight to Setup AWS. I could paste those values in here. I can hit it again. Now, I'm just going to use the failed one because it's all the same values right here. And we're going to run this again. With new resources. Ooh. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Okay, so there's not like a... Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to do this. So I'm going to delete this bad boy. They're all deleted. Let's get those values again. So I'm going to go back to my worksheet, the setup, and they're right here waiting for me. Copy and go back here and paste. One more time. All right, now we're good. Who's feeling lucky? What is it? Fifth time's the charm. Okay, so these values, this is all great. This is all great as before. I will acknowledge, and this time our expectation is that there's not existing entities because we just rolled them back. We'll be able to create these, and they'll have the updated values. Now, this is a hypothesis I have. The fact that Snowflake wasn't able to just assume those roles based on the idea that it would have new principles because I recreated everything on its side. All right, so we've already made it further than we did before. I'll keep refreshing because these are not long-lived tasks. These don't take very long. I'll put myself back here. Beautiful. Create complete. Now we go back into here. And the cool part about having our warehouse be defined and actually have it exist in Tabular is I can wipe so much infrastructure off the board and not impact my data. So in Snowflake, if I ever just want to get rid of this stuff, I just delete it all. And the data is still there. My other access points are all still there. And then I can upgrade to a new Snowflake account, or I can implement in a different way. I can rename anything I want to do. So now I'm going to come in here. I'm going to hit enabled again and apply changes. In this case, we expect green. The reason it was green last time is because this status check is really just ensuring that we can do the initial create of the warehouse. Or I'm sorry, the warehouse here database on the Snowflake side. After that, all the metadata updating is happening in the background. So that's why we didn't see an error down here, because it was the metadata operations that failed, not the actual connectivity, the initial connect. So now this is working. If I go into Snowflake, same way that I debugged before, we'll go into that query history. And we'll filter to that tabular user. And this time, the create tables are working. So we've successfully connected a mirror. We have successfully debugged an issue. And this is actually probably a little more sophisticated than the one you're likely to encounter. So keep in mind, double check that URL, because that's a really common one to get messed up. double check your network policies in Snowflake, and then check that query log, because this will tell you if there's anything going wrong, what's happening. So now the final task, let's go ahead and look at that data. So in this, I'll show you over here. Databases, I have batch raw serverless weather data, right? This is updated 3 minutes ago. It's being loaded pretty regularly. I have some examples I don't use. And then Kafka Connect raw was 4 days ago. Reactions. I like this one because it has emojis in it. So let's see, like what is in Snowflake on reactions. So let's go to data. And because I'm an account admin, I'll be able to see this. If you use some other roles, you just created these entities, so they won't be read accessible. You'll have to update that permission yourself. Typically, what I use is a tabular read role, which is a broad read against this entire warehouse, or I'm sorry, database, all the schemas, all future objects, and so you can see I have these entities in here. There's no example because example is empty, so it won't just create the schemas unless there's something in them. And then for me, example is empty. So I have batch and Kafka Connect. And in here we have our tables, and there's a reactions table. It's an external volume, so you can see that in the definition here. Let's take a peek at this. I'll go to worksheets, and my worksheet down here. And just as a sampler, let's go ahead and I'm using my warehouse. I'm using the role that has access to this. So I'll select star from its enterprise data warehouse dot Kafka Connect raw dot reactions and limit 100. It really doesn't matter. It's similar to just like a Snowflake table, and just that simple. Here are all our emoji reactions streaming in, and as soon as they hit Tabular, they are ready to consume in here. There's not a lag time that you have to worry about. Now, right now it's read only. So what I like to do is maybe do some of my processing in other tools and then expose for BI consumption in Snowflake. Or I use Tabular as a load layer because it is so good at the batch and streaming loads. And I expose that directly into Snowflake, and I do the rest of my processing, my data engineering straight in Snowflake, and use this as a really effective, fast, cheap way to get source data into Snowflake without having to set up snowpipes or do external queries from external stages. These should be very, very fast for you. Okay. All right. Thank you. Let us know if you have any questions. Even comment on this video and we can update with information. All right. Bye.